Welcome back to the University of Life in this course, the 12 Loves. And as much as I love my other studio over there, it can get kind of noisy, so we relocated to my secondary studio here. But let's continue on. Let's finish up with invested love. I promised I would tell you the 3 things that invested love wants, and by the end you'll see why it's so useful to know this stuff and helps make sense of so many things. In fact, in future loves, future chapters, future videos, we'll explain even more. We'll refer back to these 3 things, and it makes sense. The first thing that love wants, that invested love wants for its cathexes, for the people it loves, for the people someone loves, is it wants their happiness. This makes sense. It sounds right. We've seen this, and it also makes a lot of sense based on what you learned in the last video. The fact that when someone else is happy, you're happy for them, right? You get to experience that joy, even for something that didn't even happen to you. So it can make life a lot richer. Like loving a lot of people, you can find a lot more enjoyment for yourself because you get to celebrate their wins, as like the story I told you about, and be happy for them. So it makes perfect sense. However, it's not just a simple thing to make someone happy and want them to be happy. It's not like you can just give them all the ice cream and pizza and expensive cars and vacations they want, where they can just consume and have leisure and have everything so easy, because that's just not how life works. It's going to throw some curveballs to us and stuff. And so the second thing that love wants, that invested love wants, is it desires your well-being. It wants you to be safe and well. So it might be protective sometimes, just wanting to make sure that you're okay. And think of this logically as there's a clear connection as well. How can you be happy if you're not safe, if you're not well, if you have illness and feel horrible, if you're in great danger, that's going to be scary and tense. Think of all the reasons why you can be unwell and how that detracts from your happiness. So it's almost difficult to put these 3 things that love wants in order, because which one comes first, which one follows. They just go back and forth so much like this. So it wants you to be well, and some of the ways that it helps you to be well are to make you happy and say nice things and spend quality time together and have good relationship and stuff. But the most important way that love makes sure that you're well is the third thing that this love desires for you. And that is that it wants to see you grow. It wants you to grow into your full potential. And again, this is perfectly logical, because if you're like weak and need a lot of help, you can cheer someone up and make them happy. You can give them a balloon. As A.A. Milne said, it's impossible to be uncheered with a balloon. Like, that's such a cheerful thing, apparently, for the author of Winnie the Pooh. But if you're always weak, then you're always vulnerable as well. And so it wants your well-being. And the best way to assure your well-being is for you to get stronger and wiser and more mature. And maturity, what does it mean? It means that, the primary utility of being mature is that you can now handle whatever comes at you. You can be more rational and cautious and wise the way you handle things, right? So maybe I should add this to it as well, because I often say that the first thing that love does is it sees the good in you. It sees your good, right? And it loves you for that. And I know we've talked about that before. And so that's another logical connection with growth, because love doesn't just see the good that's in you and love you for that. It does, but it's not like some emo teenager's dream, like just love me and accept me and don't make anything be hard, right? I don't want to clean my room. It's wiser than that. C.S. Lewis pointed this out beautifully in his book, The Problem of Pain. So insightful, so readable. I highly recommend that book. And he's talking about God, right? And how people are like, well, if God loved us, he'd make us all happy and everything would be great. And C.S. Lewis is like, look, you've got a narrow vision of what you think this life is all about. God sees your good, but he also sees your potential, and he hungers for you, for us to rise to that and experience it and become strong and capable, because you know what? It's going to make you infinitely more happy than if you're just weak, weak sauce like that. It's going to make sure your well-being and can handle things. So love really takes the long view. I mean, the short view and the long view. And when you skin your knee, you're like, come here, there, kiss your boo-boo better. Now get on that bike and learn to ride. Try again, right? Because when you get comfortable and confident there, and you've got the wind flying through your hair, under your helmet, I hope, it's joyful. It's a great experience. I remember a friend of mine was depressed for a while, right? And I asked him a little bit. I'm like, when's the last time you did something exciting? And later he went for a bike ride, or he told me about this moment of coasting down this hill and the wind in his hair and beautiful sunny day, and somehow it just made him present enough that his heart opened up and he experienced this beautiful, beautiful moment. So, anyway, these are the three things that love wants for you. It wants your happiness, it wants your well-being, and it wants your growth. And again, I can't tell which order exactly to put them in because they each reflect back and forth on each other so much. But I think this is a good way. It makes sense. It's easy to follow. Okay, there's a problem with growth, however, when you want someone to grow. And that is, as you know from your personal experience, because you're human, you've been around the block a few times, you've been here for a few years, you know that growth, it's hard. It's uncomfortable. It hurts. You remember how I talked about that simple part of our brain that has the snapshot? Well, that part of the brain, it's interested in the survival of the species. It's not interested in your self-actualization, in your maximizing your potential and experiencing the fullness of joy. No. And it takes a lot of effort for that part of your brain to change its wiring around. And so you get all this cognitive dissonance, and it's just so uncomfortable. A lot of people won't even go there. They're like, I don't want to grow. I'm just going to keep my blinders on and pretend the world's the way I think until it's more painful to stay the same than to accept that I was wrong, that there is a more informed view, and that maybe I should get a little tougher and so forth. So growth is hard. So as you love people, be aware of this. If you've got an emo teenager or a 2-year-old who doesn't want to pick up his toys, or a 3rd grader who just doesn't want to go to school today, but you're like, you've got to go, be tough, learn some stuff, face it, whatever, then please remember that their wailing and their tantrums, this is not pretend stuff. It's hard for them. And if you can help them to grow by supporting them and saying, hey, I know it's tough. I felt that way before too. I didn't want to go to school. I don't want to go to work today. I want to stay here and play video games with you or go hiking all day long. That would be the coolest thing. Show some empathy. Maybe that can soothe them and make it a little bit easier. Let's not pretend that's going to make it all go easy, but hey, you can try, right? So acknowledge that it hurts. Another important thing to point out at this point is have you ever heard this? Or at least you've seen other people said it. Maybe you've said it before. If you loved me, you wouldn't make me pick up my toys. You wouldn't make me go to school. You wouldn't make me, whatever. You wouldn't make me grow. That's not exactly true, Or if you loved me, you'd give me a ride somewhere. I had this friend in college. I love her. She's smart. She's so manipulative and so intelligent at it. It's so subtle. And what I learned to turn this into a game. Here's a simple example. If you love me, you go get me a glass of water. In that, if that was the case, I'm sure I'd sure, I'm happy to go get a glass of water. But instead, I'd look at her and I would play her game right back at her. If you loved me, you wouldn't ask me to. And so it just diffuses. It's like matter, antimatter, and her game just can't exist like that. So it's really fun to play that game sometimes like that. It's not always that easy. But the point I want to make is that as you love the world and you love people, don't leave yourself out of this equation. Love yourself. Look after your well-being, your happiness, and your growth as well. And here's my favorite word when it comes to this sort of thing: boundaries. Love. A lot of people are like, I don't want to be more loving because then I must have to become a doormat and I have to do whatever anybody wants and never get mad, blah, 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 blah. That is not true. Okay? As Don Miguel Ruiz said in the Four Agreements, there are no, how do you say it, requirements in love. Obligations. He said there are no obligations in love. Like, you do things because you want to. It is a free will thing. Obviously, there are differences. Like, you're a parent, you know what? You really have to change that diaper. On the box, you know how it says 2 to 4 years? No, it's like a few hours, you know, right? Or maybe it's like 20 to 30 pound babies. That's not the capacity of the diaper, right? I know this is obvious, but I thought it was funny. So you're going to have to do some things you don't really feel like doing, right? But you're still choosing to do it. But overall, never be afraid to establish a boundary and say, no, I don't want to do that. I'm not comfortable with it. It is not my job. But that's really what it comes down to. You know what? Your happiness is your job. I will tell you a joke. I will say, I care about you, but I am not going to go to school for you. I'm not going to, sacrifice my happiness and my well-being for yours in this case. So never feel bad about drawing those boundaries and say, no, that's your problem. You're going to have to deal with that one. An important point, especially when it comes time to when people are asking you to be a crutch, like, I don't want to grow, you do it for me. Be like, you know what? I care about you too much to let you limp along like this. I want to see you strong. You're going to have to do it. I don't know if you want to actually give them that argument in the moment. Maybe if you've already discussed it, but it'll probably just piss them off. But it's not your problem, right? So, all right. So there you have it. The 3 things that invested love wants, and a few insights. We'll give more in the future about why that's so useful to know. And boy, I wish we had so many more people who understood this and who practiced it and knew how to apply it. You know what I wish? I wish writers would illustrate this more often in their stories so people could see it and say, oh, I get it. That's an option. That's mature. And I promised I would tell you one more thing in this video. Sometimes I sign off my videos by saying, love you, right? And you might say, you don't even know me. That's impossible. You can't love someone you don't even know. Well, I beg to differ, because I saw a meme that said it very nicely. It says, if you can hate someone for no reason, and boy, do we see that all the time, or what? People, those trolls, those critical people, those angry, hurt people trying to discharge their emotions, attacking other people. It's ugly. Ugh. It's unfortunate. I'm sorry for those people. Anyway, it says, if you can hate for no reason, then I can love. And that is a fact. And all it takes to begin this, like, I'm imagining you on the other side of the screen watching this video, or thinking of just the people across the world. And what do I want for them? I want them to be happy. I want them to be well, and I want them to grow into their potential so they can maximize that happiness and well-being, and so that it can help support other people and reduce the suffering and all these things. I crave this. That's what the University of Life is all about. I put a considerable amount of time and effort in this, and I hope I can get some big returns from it. So I may not know you, but I still want your happiness, all that. So I can legit say I love you, I care about you. And isn't this true of you too? Like, when you're on social media or on YouTube or something, and you see some story of someone who is just really good, kind, reasonable, helpful. The ducks fell in the drain and the cops get them out, whatever. And you're like, yeah, way to go, You, all reasonable people, all but the worst of the worst, or the most hurt of suffering, immature jerks. We want everyone else's well-being. I think we naturally love other people until it comes time to, deciding how much effort we're willing to put into that, partly based on what we expect to get back out of it. But it's still true. So I love you, and I'm going to keep on saying that. I'm going to keep making these videos, And I hope this works for you. I hope you get it and practice it, and it just softens up your heart and makes life like that much better, and all your relationships and everything as well. So see you in the next video.